Hi guys, this is the second video for SaberBot. Bear with me, it's a bit complicated. We're going to basically work on the bot that should automatically track and navigate through the level towards the player to damage him. Before we even do any of that, a couple tweaks on the previous video. I created a nice mini-map camera, but I left all this extra stuff. This stuff is relevant to regular cameras, but a mini-map camera doesn't need these features, especially the audio listener. All right, next up, we need to create a bot. A bot is a complicated instrument or game object in this game because it needs to be pushed around by both the physics engine as a rigid body and by the navigation mesh. It's always tricky to get one thing moved cleanly by two different subsystems. So here we go. Let's create a cube. I'm going to create an empty at the top level, which I'm going to call the attack bot. And for now, I'll set it at 0, 0, 0. And an attack bot is going to have a child that's also an empty. And I'm going to call this guy the agent. The nav mesh agent is going to move him. And then we'll have another one called a rigid body. We'll get there in a minute. Let's get the agent working correctly. He's going to need a script under navigation called nav mesh agent. And I'm going to leave all the default settings in place for him. All right. So this agent is supposed to go automatically to our player. We don't even have a player. And one of the complexities here is that we will eventually build this for the Vive, but for now I want to create a high-level empty game object called PC player, which I'm going to put at the very top in my hierarchy. And as a child of the PC player, I'm going to put the main camera. And then the PC player is also going to have some kind of game object that an attack bot can hit. So I'm going to create another empty child. I'm going to call this guy the actual player. And I'm going to set him to the player tag. And the one component that a player needs is a capsule collider. Go take a look, make sure our capsule collider makes sense. So 1, it should have a height of 2, and then it looks like it needs a center of 1. There's our capsule collider. I'm going to take our PC player for now. I'm going to move him. Oh, I want the camera right on top of that capsule collider. Move the camera up a little bit. Okay, PC player. Move him into one of the rooms. Like solidly in one of the rooms. We'd love the mini-map to show him. Let's get the attack bots moving towards him first. Should be easy enough. For now, because this agent has no visible body, I'm going to set this right there so I can see him in my scene. And then we're going to let him navigate with a script. So time for our first script. Create a folder called scripts. Inside of here, create a C# script. I will call it the attack bot. And the attack bot script is going to control both the agent and the rigid body. When I get there, it's going to go on the parent object called attack bot. Let's open this guy up. And I'm feeling pretty lazy, so I'm going to just go public net. Oh, first let's import the right package, then public navmesh agent space agent. And later we'll get the rigid body. And we also need a target. It's going to always go after the player. I'll just say transform space player. And this I can use that tag for. So game object find game object with tag player, and I want the transform. Update simple. We tell the agent to set its destination to the player dot position. If I've done all that correctly, and I wire it up in Unity, we should see, let me drag over the agent. Remember, the attack bot is on the parent object, so agent's a child. We should see that agent navigate to where our player is, and our player is hiding down here in a room. So hopefully, there goes our agent. He goes straight to the player. Great. Take a close look at him, and he should be right on top of the player. Specifically, he should be intersecting with the player's collider. Not sure why my player collider is under the ground. Let's fix that. Thought I fixed this earlier, but it's clearly beneath the ground. There it is. There we go. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Next comes the rigid body component of this, and that means that we need a second child to our attack bot. And one of the things to know is the attack bot parent game object here doesn't move. It's just his children that move, and they're going to work together. This guy's going to have a cube. He's going to be visible. And that cube is generally going to be well above ground. I'm going to call this guy the body. And I want to tack on a texture to this guy. And I've made some textures, so I will bring them in now. So I did a few things while I stepped away there. I created a textures subfolder in my assets, and I brought over a file from the tool I'm going to use to build textures. And I like to use something called Sketch. It's a Mac-only tool, unfortunately. It is installed in the Digital Media Lab, at least it's supposed to be. But you could also use GIMP, any vector art tool you want. Adobe has a tool that's kind of built around this idea of UI design now. And then you can also use just PowerPoint, actually. Anything that lets you export as a PNG. This is the texture that I want to use for my bot. I want you guys to make your own textures and to have fun with it. So just go, do good work, make some textures. Let me set up this to actually dump into the right spot. This is bot.png. Right. So now there is this texture, it's ready to go. I'm happy enough with the default settings, and I can just drag it onto the body of my bot. So there's my bot. And I need my script to now let the agent and the body work together. And that's where things get a little bit confusing. Okay, here we are. Couple interesting things about our situation. One, the navmesh agent only works on the ground, but I want my bots to be floating in the air. So Step 1 is to force the agent's position to always be on the ground. Which we can just do the old-fashioned way. The position is going to be the original position for .x, 0 for y, and the original position for z. This forces the agent onto the ground. Basically, the nav mesh agent won't be happy unless he's on the ground. The next thing that we want is the rigid body, and we want to make it kind of spin around randomly and menacingly. So I'm going to create a rigid body that's public so I can drag it into place. Wait for that to compile. The attack bot now has a spot for the rigid body. This is the rigid body. All day long I'm going to be turning off these features because I just want simple and quick lighting. Alright, so there's my rigid body. I'll keep the default values for now. I can drag this in, and now I can impose rules on the body of the attack bot. And the first thing I want is some random spinning. That's torque in the world of physics, and I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with random spinning on X, Y, and Z. Okay, what should happen now is a couple things. One, I forgot to turn off gravity. Two, my cube should be kind of spinning randomly, which is fine, but the agent himself is driving over there. That's not what I want. I want the cube and the agent to kind of move together. So next up, I want to tell the agent, first of all, let me comment that, random spinning. I want to tell the agent not to move anything. Let agent move anything. The agent update position. The agent should just be suggesting which way to go, and then we should use forces to move the body. And then the agent should always be catching up to where the body is. So agent.next position is going to be new vector 3, and it's going to be wherever the body.position.x, 0 for y, agent's always on the ground, body.position.z. Try it again. So my cube is rotating, my agent is staying with my cube, and if I go to navigation and I click on agent, you can see here, if you look carefully at little blue arrow, that's the way the agent wants to go. He's saying, I wish I could go that way, but he's not moving. How do we fix that? Well, the agent tells the world what velocity he wants to have, so that when you change update position to false and the agent can't move, he can at least tell the world where he would want to move. And that's exactly what we want to do now. We don't want to use velocity. The whole gambit here is that the player can knock back cubes with a shield. And so the physics engine has to simulate knockbacks. The cubes can be bouncing off of walls. But the entire time, the body of the attack bot needs to be trying to go the right direction. And so we use add force here. Agent dot, it's something like desired velocity. Yeah, that's right. So we want to add that force at all times, plus some fudge factor, and then, of course, a force to get the agent to move down to the player's level. Remember, the agent only knows about the horizontal world, doesn't change y values, and yet our attack bot might be high or low. So we want to fudge that all together into a force vector that works well. So the way that's going to work is we want some code to move the body down by some amount. And that amount is based on where the player is. So player.position.y. If the player is above us, then we would want the cube to move up. If the player is below us, we want the cube to move down. So body.position.y. I'm just going to go with this. I feel like you could totally introduce some fudge factors here to kind of make the cube move faster or slower by multiplying in some constants. But I want to see what happens when I do this. So if this is 2 and the body is at 10, that's -8, so the guy moves down. It should be all right. Let's give this a go and see what happens. We hope that our body can start relatively high. Let's start them at like 6. So if I see that, and slowly move down and follow the agent around to here. He's kind of doing his thing. It's not perfect, but he's bouncing around and he's coming to us. He eventually got there. Now there's some other properties we can play with to make this smooth, and I played around with that earlier. I'm going to look them up now and put it in. Okay, so here we are, a couple tweaks. One, if we give this cube a little bit of drag, he won't overshoot all his corners. 2, the player's position is on the floor right now, and that has to do with how we constructed the player. And that's okay. You could say the player's at 0 or the player's at 2, depending if we're talking about the player's body or the player's head. I'm going to hard code this to 2 though. Assume player is at height 2. And what that's going to do is let the cubes not roll on the ground so much, but still kind of float in the air, which is what I want. And we put these two things together, a little bit of drag on the rigid body, and that. Then we're going to have a cube that moves a little bit more menacingly, and when he comes around the corner here, he's going to kind of be floating and coming towards us. One of the things he's doing is bouncing off of me. That's because my player has this capsule collider. I want to mark it as a trigger because in the actual gameplay, it won't bounce off the body, it'll just hurt it. So now that cube should move right through the player capsule. He still bounces around a little bit, but that's all fun. And there he goes. All right, that's enough for this video.